Okay, guys, I've been featuring for you some of the best brands, dealers, distributors, products that are going to be at the Florida Audio Expo in Tampa in just a few days. And in that vein, I want to continue featuring today for you one of the best distributors I've found in the entire hobby and industry. Steve Jain of Fidelity Imports. Same person I went and checked out some of his brands in Italy. He's got plenty more. And in this video, you're going to learn everything he's bringing to the Florida Audio Expo and some new releases. So stay tuned. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is adding to my new twist on show coverage, doing a lot of pre-show coverage and highlighting things that'll help you navigate when you show up at these shows. At least due diligence I've done over my many years, brands that I think you should check out and do some investigation yourself, because all these different products and brands I've been featuring all resonate with me at different levels, and they may resonate with you as well. And in that vein, today I'm featuring Steve Jain with Fidelity Imports. And when you look at his brands that he carries, I mean, it is amazing. From Italy to UK, France, some of the best products, US, all around the globe. He's been able to put together a portfolio that I have been super impressed with, not just on performance metrics. I mean, when you look at the aesthetic element of all the brands he's got, it's amazing and reasonable cost. He's going to have a big room, as you're going to hear, at the Florida Audio Expo, which is different than he's done in the past, where he's had multiple rooms, even take over an entire floor with multiple small rooms. He's going to be doing a big room, and you're going to hear more about that in this video. And I think when you appreciate how much gear he's going to have in there, both on static display and to hear, this will give you a good taste of what I get to see behind the scenes with him. The quality of people that he employs, they're going to be there. The quality of brands, the quality of aesthetics. I've got some of his products, Primare, big fan of Unison Research, Gold Note, Audiophile. Those are just few of the brands. I went on that tour in Italy with them, and we've got an announcement in this video that we're going to be taking another trip very soon to see some other of his brands. So I hope you enjoy this video. Also in the Zoom is Carlo the Raso with Secrets of Home Theater and High Fidelity. Look, there aren't many review sites or YouTubers or online sites, whatever, magazines that I, put a lot of stock in their reviews. This guy is one of them. Every time I read one of his reviews, especially when he does it, it's just synergistic with what I feel. So he's on the Zoom as well, and he's going to give his thoughts, and he's going to be there. Be sure to say hi to him, check out his channel, and certainly his website for reviews. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I still have plenty more. Every time I get out a video, I've been doing one or two a day, I still get further behind. More to come still before the Florida Audio Expo. Stay tuned.
Hey, Carlo.
Hey, Jason, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
You got the cool backdrop again. I got to get that.
I can turn it off, and if you really want to see my hot water heater and my furnace, it's fine.
Actually, I could do this and tell us. Let me see here. I could put us in this backdrop. Oh, actually, yeah. See,
that's awesome.
I
have to turn this way. Hey,
yeah,
hey,
yeah. I got. Oh, let's see here. What else I got here is options.
Oh man. Ooh. feel like we should be doing like a like episode of Great British Baking Show or something like.
Oh wait, so Steve just, let's see. Let me do 3. Let me find for 3 people.
Okay.
What's up, guys?
Mr. Steve.
This will be perfect for.
All right, I might do. Let me try something here. Hold on. I'm gonna see.
Let's see what else I got here.
Let's see if I turn off that super shiny light. Am I still okay with just the ring light, or do I still look terrible?
Well, we do need to get your cowboy hat, but otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I can put the light on in the room.
Okay.
Or not. How's that look?
You
Okay.
look good as a painting, like the Mona Lisa.
There you go. The Mona Stevo.
I have got to get a better setup in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm using that what is it, that DJI Osmo camera that everyone was using when we were in Italy. I picked one of those up and I'm using it doubles as a fantastic webcam.
Does
So
it?
it does really, really well. Yeah.
Well, I definitely screwed up getting this thing. I have no idea how to use it. It doesn't download to my phone very easy. It creates a Wi-Fi
Oh,
with my phone and Bluetooth. It's just a pain in the ass. And let me tell you something, these mics are expensive and they all suck.
oh
They
dear.
really do suck. I had the $300 Sennheiser one. I had to send it back. This one is no better, but I'm tired of sending them back. What they're all designed to do, what I figured out, is designed to address wind noise outside. And so they all roll off, even though they have a filter to roll off even higher, like at 200 hertz. Most of these don't go much lower than 70 hertz. And so when you try to
Mm,
record music with this, it's
yeah.
terrible. Even my phone records better than this. And so this has turned into kind of a bust, but
Oh.
um, I am going to go try to find that guy, Carlo, that has the Nikon, works for Nikon, see if
Oh
he'll
wow,
loan me a
okay.
camera for that one that you were interested in.
Oh, that if that's okay, that'd be great. I
Yeah,
mean
I'll see if he'll loan it to me for the weekend, and then if you want to use it at the show,
I
um,
thanks. Yeah, that'd be
you're
great.
much better off with the. What happened was he's dating a friend of mine, and I
Okay.
didn't know for sure how that was going to work out. You know, he was buddying up to me really good, but I'm like, yeah, this is a cool guy to know, but it's only as good as I'm mainly friends with her, not you. So this is going to be awkward. So they have survived the first month or so, so I can still reach out to him and hopefully get that camera.
You know, if it's cool, that's great. I don't want you to extend yourself or put yourself in an awkward position on my account.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, I'll try to do it. It's just it's coming down to the wire, and then how much stuff I got to bring because I got to bring cowboy hats. So I got limited space in my.
yeah. Wow. You have to have priorities
I
and the
got my
cowboy
priorities
hats.
straight.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Cowboy
that's
hats, then cameras. You know,
yeah. No,
so
that's important. That's important. You have an image. So it's like
The things
so
that have to go are
uh
quite interesting. I
yeah.
texted
so
Randy to see if he's coming, but he
I think
hasn't.
he said he had a with his members. He's
Yeah,
his
his
patron members.
Patreon. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of rude that he would pick paying members over us. That's ridiculous, isn't
Kind
it?
of ridiculous, actually.
I know.
But I think
What
all
is
of
it with
us are
that
going to
guy?
be in Florida, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's
What day are you
there
guys
too.
arriving?
I'm arriving on Wednesday. I'm getting there a day early, and my wife and I are hanging out in St. Pete's for the day,
Oh,
and
cool.
then we'll be coming over on Thursday and being there in time for the mixer and stuff.
You're going
So
to be staying at the hotel, the
yeah,
venue hotel. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and I think we're flying out Monday evening, so we'll probably muck around some more and that day before we fly out. But
Okay,
I'm there
cool.
for the
Yeah.
whole show. Yep.
Me too. Yeah, I'm going out Monday. How about you, Steve?
I am leaving tomorrow.
Oh,
Mm.
You don't have that weird thing about flying lately. I only fly if I absolutely have to.
okay.
So, me and Jim and Michael, one of our retailers, the guy with the crazy beard,
Mm.
are driving down. We're gonna go, I don't know, maybe Savannah tomorrow night,
Oh yeah.
and then spend the night there, and then drive the rest of the way. We have a delivery. Michael has a delivery on Tuesday, and then we'll get into Tampa probably Tuesday night. That's what I think we're gonna do. And then I'll be, kind of actually I have this thing I'm doing working with Obsessed Garage. Anybody watch that channel?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. No.
Obsessed Garage is like pretty big YouTube channel in the detailing space and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And they have partnered with Michael Youthman to
Mm.
create Obsessed home
Oh,
theater.
home theater. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen Michael promoting that a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's an offshoot of Obsessed Garage, which has been in business for 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
Um, they have 684,000 subscribers on YouTube. I was just looking while we were talking here. So that gives you an idea of the channel size. And he's got a business around detailing, detail products, whatever. And so through this business, they started building garages. And I believe that they have like a GC, they have electricians, they have drywall, they have people who are building full on insane garages, right? If people want $500,000, $1 million garages, whatever. So they partnered with Michael to make Obsessed Home Theater because they were doing audio anyway,
Mm.
like in the garage, in your office, here or there, and then
Right.
they're audio lovers. So we have a meeting with them Wednesday. Some of the team will just start doing setup, and I'm going to that meeting, and then Thursday we'll do the rest of the setup. So
And how many rooms
Nice.
are you going to have this year?
just one. We're doing things very different this year.
The one big room, right?
We have one big giant ballroom, and
Mhm.
then we're gonna do like little vignette. One system will be playing, and then there'll be static vignettes. I didn't go crazy at Florida this year because we went utterly insane at Axpona. I don't know if you saw the 12th floor or not, but
Not yet. I haven't looked at the floor plan.
oh,
Is it nuts?
it's nuts. It's insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the amount of work that goes into. I get a more and more appreciation as these shows go, and I talk to more and more people, working with more and more people behind the scenes. And yeah, it's a minefield of things you have to logistics that people don't even realize. They think you
Yeah.
just put it in the car, put it in a U-Haul, and set it up. No, I mean you have to think of so many things, and the cost involved for a lot of manufacturers. I was talking to YG when they have to ship these mega heavy speakers,
Yeah, the solid
for
aluminum
6
enclosure speakers.
rooms,
Yeah.
your shipping bill alone can be ridiculous. And we've all seen the problems with shipping nowadays. It's just a total minefield. So yeah, it's been eye-opening for me to see behind the scenes what it takes to put on this show. And that's why I've always given you credit, Steve, because you've always been not only at all these shows, but running multiple rooms, or in this case, what you're doing, one of the big rooms. What is going to be your main audio setup?
Yeah, so this year we're going to do a Perlisten setup
Okay.
with speakers and 2 or 4 subs. I think we brought 4 subwoofers, but I think we're gonna try to run it with 2. It's a very large room. And then we've got these vignettes to focus on, static vignettes to focus on all the other brands. Sort of the concept is like show everything a retailer or a dealer could purchase through Fidelity Imports.
Okay.
Right? So that's kind of the concept with this one. It's, if I'm honest, it's a grand experiment. We've never done a big ballroom and not the little rooms. I mean, I think last year at the Florida Audio Show, Florida Audio Expo, we did 11 rooms, I think.
Yeah.
That's
It
crazy.
was insane. And I'm doing something like that at Axpona, but I'm tired. If I'm honest, it's a lot of freaking work,
A lot of cost.
Yeah.
The cost is one thing. You kind of want to support your brands, and you want to give people a flavor for all the things that you do. So I'm okay with the costs, but the time, the resource, the energy, and then you're just running from room to room to room. So we did something quite interesting, for Axpona this year, where we went to the organizers and we said, look, we have some friends that we're kind of friendly with, have the same kind of energy, same kind of vibe. Would you mind moving everyone else off our floor? And so credit to the organizers, they kicked everyone off our floor. And so it's just Fidelity and their friends. And we have the whole floor.
Wow.
So it's going to be pretty cool. So a lot of my attention has been going there. We're going to launch some new brands to the portfolio. We're going to launch some new stuff. We have, I believe, 10 rooms, and we have a ballroom for Axpona. So
Wow.
it's a big undertaking, and I think that's where a lot of my focus has been going. I'm excited for the Florida Audio Show. I'm excited to see you guys and see a lot of friends. It's been a while. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
missed, you missed Capital Audio Fest.
I did.
Yeah.
One of our retailers did 4 rooms, so we were kind of there. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling so great for a few months. I seemed to have back-to-back the flu and a virus and this and that. And yeah, we weren't doing the same scale. But I'm excited to get back to audio. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to put on a good show. I'm excited to see what this venue is, because the other thing is this is a new hotel.
Yeah,
Right.
that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be really curious to see how, A, how the hotel is, and B, what the reaction is from exhibitors and visitors and stuff like that. Because, I mean, it's up until now, it's been at the same hotel, and it was fine. There were like issues with it and stuff, and I think the show was kind of outgrowing it. But I'm curious to see if this new one will what everyone's going to think of it, and if people will really dig it. So that'll be interesting.
I did have a Zoom already with Bart, one of the organizers, and he talked about some of the advantages that this venue offers, especially not the problem that we've had in the past in the Tampa show with the elevators. I got stuck on the elevator in one case, and the elevators have always been a problem. That's really not going to be the problem at this venue, but it is much further away than from the airport in Tampa. I don't know if you guys have dinner reservations planned, but that area of town might not be as bad. But in Tampa, you got to book reservations like a month in advance for any place that's well known, because the population has grown so fast and outpaced the infrastructure. And so, like a Burn Steakhouse, that's like a 6-month wait, to get in there. So it's very tough. But I think it's going to be a lot of promise in this venue, because there's more of the bigger rooms, and I think you've got one, and that gives people a chance to hear systems that are big speakers. They're not crammed into small environments, and even modest sized speakers in these hotel rooms is too much. It's not realistic. So this will give a chance for you, and especially doing 2 to 4 subs, really show off the Perlisten dynamics.
So, Steve, is the Perlisten going to be the only active system? I mean, are you guys going to be swapping stuff over the course of the thing, or just that's going to be the only active system running and everything else static?
I think our plan is just to run the Perlisten.
Okay.
Obviously, if we start having some drinks after hours and people want to pull some stuff around, I think we could probably accommodate.
Bring the furniture movers. Bring the furniture movers. Slide stuff around.
We'll tape off the setting for the Perlistens, but I think our intention was, like I said, kind of grand experiment to try it and see what happens. I think that if this show goes the way we hope it will, then I think Fidelity will be back next year in a giant way, right? I mean, number one, it's Tampa in February, so that doesn't suck. Bart's a great guy. The show it has been historically a highlight for me and for our company. So I think with this, we just sort of went, let's try something, let's see how it goes. And then if it goes well, we obviously won't give up our ballroom, and we'll buy up a bunch of smaller rooms as well. But the thing is that I've come to understand, even though maybe not optimal, what the rooms were in Florida, right? So I want to go now, like kind of with a spectator's view, right? Walk around the rooms and see, because the problem I think too is that, and Jason hinted at it a little bit. As we start to go with higher and higher performance audio, it's hard to do it in such small rooms sometimes, and some of the hotels are like, there are things you don't think of that are a challenge, right? Some of them have credenzas that you can't move, the head for the bed, or whatever, right? So, and it's not, we don't typically do any room treatment anyway. Sometimes we'll do a small amount, but we generally don't do much. So I want to kind of get in there, This year I'm going to take some videos of it so I can, so we can digest it as a team and try to understand, like, okay, if we did this, what do we do? Right.
Right. Right.
I've had this idea of like focusing on high performance bookshelves. We really have never done that. And you may remember one year I did the Q Concept 300s.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, it was one of the first times you and I really kind of hung out a bit. I cheated a little bit because I corner loaded them, so I was bouncing off of all the walls. But I got so many compliments about the bass and what a bookshelf speaker could do in that room. And I think it's just, sometimes with audio, you kind of get in that space where it's like show off the biggest and the boldest or whatever. But I feel like I'm challenging myself, right? I'm in my office right now that you can see kind of behind me. And I have these floor standing speakers in there. And I just keep thinking to myself, like, a nice bookshelf is really all I need. So I've been thinking about trying to do something like that. Maybe some of the rooms would have bookshelves, or like with one of the brands, do the bookshelf in one room and then across the hall do the floor stander. So a consumer can kind of get an idea of what are you losing if you, right? And in a small space, maybe you're not, right?
Right. How does something
So,
scale for in a particular room in terms of the size of the speaker versus the room? Yeah, yeah.
It's
you ever notice,
funny.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny you mentioned that because I just released a video today where I was talking about bookshelves and a little $100 bookshelf, and how when people hear that, as long as you're playing material that's conducive to not max excursion, you're not playing at 100 dB. If you have a very finely done, like a Q Acoustics, it's amazing how close it gets, and sometimes even preferable. I was talking about in my video how people have literally preferred a little bookshelf over $1 million acapella spherons. Now, not certainly in dynamic scale and certain metrics, but when you have one driver doing everything like a bookshelf mostly does, you do have some low frequency trade-offs and volume limitations, but it can get very addictive and it can get very impressive. And people find out, you know what, less is more sometimes, and I'm not that far off. So that's a great point to show people, hey, you're not sacrificing that much if you're on a budget in this hobby. If you pick the right brands, and if you do that, that's a great, and ironically, I'm going to have a room at Florida. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I'm going to have a
I
room
heard you mention that.
showcasing a desktop system.
nice.
And
A desktop system?
a desktop system.
Oh.
And that's all I'll tell you at this point. Please come by, because it's going to showcase exactly what we're talking about here, how you can get tremendous performance. In fact, uncontestable performance when you're listening near field with this kind of system. Full range with a sub that's going to have a stereo single box stub. This is the first time you're going to see that too. So Bart had this room that he said, I can't rent to anybody. It's got a fixed conference room. I said, well, I got a product actually that somebody wants me to represent, and I can put it in there. And so it's going to be the world debut. And so, but it fits your theme of what you're talking about. I think the hobby needs to go more to that, because people are living in smaller spaces in certain cities. And even if you have a big house, sometimes you're the wife only lets you have a small part of the room to do what you want. And some of these speakers will blend easier into family room environments. So people can actually outfit their entire house with Q Acoustics easily and not be, in fact, they're very attractive, one of the most attractive.
I got two things that come to mind when we think about bookshelves too. One, when we talk about Perlisten, everything they make is ported except one speaker. The S4B is an acoustic suspension. It's the only speaker they do that's acoustic suspension, and in many ways, it's one of my favorite speakers from them. It sounds utterly fantastic. It does have that trade-off of low frequency response, right? That in room, you feel it kind of bass, you're not going to get as much of, right, from that. So generally speaking, it's the 2.1 setup, right? If you're looking for the nth degree in two-channel performance, you're going to need a sub with those speakers. But what they can do is spectacular. And I'll bring you back a little bit for when the three of us were in Italy. What was one of the highlights of what we did in that speaker, like when we were moving speakers around, we were listening to some of the demos and some of those when they brought the Callus speakers out. If you remember, it's an older design. It's Bart's father's design, but that speaker, I mean, for me,
That
it was
impressed.
interesting. It had they're designing some new stuff, and some of the things they have coming are really cool, and especially an awesome value for the money. There was something darker about the Callus in like a good darker way, right?
Yeah.
That I don't know. I know, Carlo, I know you were, I think that was one of your favorites of the day. I remember
Yeah.
you telling me that.
Yeah.
But and we had listened to the big ones. We listened to the floor standers. We listened to even some of the Unison Max stuff. And for me, the most appealing speaker that day was the Callus, and it's just a small
Yeah.
bookshelf. I think it has a 6 or 7 inch mid-range driver and a silk dome tweeter, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You
That.
mentioned 2.1 really quick. That's something more people should explore because
Yeah.
number one, a subwoofer where you load bass in a room normally is not best to be symmetrical in the exact same place as your woofer and tweeter, and not even in the same box. If you can remove that from the box and the resonances, if you can put it where it's most optimal for bass to load the room, then you've got the best of both worlds. Now, it's tough to mate them. You have to have skill. You have to have at least the bookshelves get down low enough that they don't have to do too much. But the subs also usually come with their own amp. So now you can get away with a lesser powered amp on your
Right.
mains. There's so much advantage to that 2.1 that, again, you can beat the performance of symmetrically loaded bass in these big cabinets. And I think that's kind of what you probably heard in Italy, is that advantage is huge,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
other thing I think is kind of an interesting thing, and we try to do 1 to 2 budget rooms every show, right? I mean, we've been a proponent of you don't have to spend a fortune. You can have a great audio system that plays real music at $5 grand, $10 grand for the whole setup, right? Everything, stand, equipment, speakers. But one of the challenges with subwoofers that I've found, I think, is there's a lot of, I have an elegant way to say this, noise boxes on the market. And so when it gets a bad rap, right? Putting a subwoofer, integrating a subwoofer into a system, a lot of 2-channel guys are like, right? But the reality is, with a good woofer, and don't expend a lot of money, just
Right.
a good woofer integrated with the 2-channel setup can be fantastic. The problem is you got to stay away from those guys that have, massive wattage for low money with this crazy looking, right? Giant X Max, whatever that they start to talk. When all those words are the first couple things that they talk about, run away. But a quality woofer from a good speaker manufacturer, a good subwoofer manufacturer makes a world of difference.
And there's an art to integrating a subwoofer properly with bookshelf or any speaker. I mean, if you're using like an AVR any of the some of the new preamps now that have room correction or Dirac in them, yeah, that helps a lot and stuff. But if you don't, and you're just using an integrated with a sub out or a preamp that gives you an opportunity to have sub outs, you have to use the onboard stuff on the subwoofer, and if it's got the phase control, if it's got some PEQs and things, that helps a lot. And it's just a bit of work to get it, find out the right place for it, get the phasing right, and then if you need to tweak the PEQs to kind of take out some room modes and stuff, there's a definite art to it. But if it's done right, it's phenomenal. I mean, you get that integration. And yeah, you could say, and it's like you were saying, Jason. I mean, bookshelves, there's the desirable thing about them is that they don't take up a lot of space, and someone who doesn't have a ton of money can start with them, and they can always scale up by adding a sub. And, a lot of times in a good sounding 2.1 or 2.2 system, it sounds like a pair of really good towers. I mean, better because that subwoofer gives you such lower extension than what a tower could practically give you in a room. So yeah, there's a lot of advantages if you take the time and you know what you're doing.
And I would say that it also is conducive to the traditional model that, Steve is a distributor. This is where going the dealer route makes sense because the dealer will have more experience
Yeah.
setting up that sub for you. So many people will buy online direct a sub, but then they don't, it's a good sub, probably a great sub, but they don't know how to integrate it with their main. They don't know what phase is. They don't know how to put it in the room. And that is a minefield. Even if you have some of these softwares, which are amazing now, there are some that will automate it mostly for you, but it's always best to do it as good as possible with placement and the controls first, and then let the DSP do the rest. But in this case, a dealer, at least a quality dealer, and that's what you deal with in your distribution and your products, this is worthwhile to and it's a grand theme of why I like to feature you, Steve, is that you pick the right brands. Number one, we got to see all the Italy brands. Maybe we'll see some of the other ones in the upcoming months. But I'm a big fan of all the brands and at the different budget points too. But yeah, you pick obviously you have to pick the right dealers for these brands too, that have the acumen to sell it and
Support it.
That traditional model is still got value, because if you get a bookshelf with a sub integrated at a budget point, yeah, you may pay dealer distributor markup, but it's going to sound better than somebody ordering a used from a used car salesman online, hoping to get a 50% discount on some mega dollar speakers. It's not going to even come close to a well set up 2.1 that you're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you, there's a lot with audio that I think people miss from time to time. I mean, like the importance of a good stand for a bookshelf, whether it's sand fillable or, some people use kitty litter or lead shot or what, there's a million things you can put into the stand, but having a stable base. There's all kinds of isolation products that are available on the market now, right? With a speaker like that. And then just in general, speaker placement, you see so much online where, and I'm in a lot of different groups. I mean, this is my life. I love audio, so I'm in Facebook groups and owners groups and all kinds of things, right? And you see so many rooms where the speaker's literally up against the wall, right? Or, in that, null zone where you don't want the speaker, right? And you just wonder, like, yes, I understand it doesn't look as good. It's not as symmetrical for the speaker to be out further in front of your cabinet that's up against the wall, but you have high quality stuff and you're leaving some performance on the table, right? So that's, I think, somewhere where a good dealer, to your point, Jason, is imperative, right? Because one, they can explain what's happening in your room and how the speaker is interacting with the room itself, and then potentially move it around the room and hopefully give you an idea of what you should listen for, and then you hear it and understand what's happening. The thing, sometimes we get people that we obviously sell to retailers. We get people who will either ask us a bunch of questions about putting together a whole system, or maybe they'll work with a dealer, and then because we're the exclusive distributor and importer, they'll just want to make sure, hey, I spoke to a person, and is this what we recommend? And it's always like, trust your dealer, they know what they're doing, trust your dealer, but it's interesting. A lot of times if somebody wants to they have some stuff and they want to I want to change everything all at once. In many cases, I'm kind of like, why don't you start with one or two things? Live with it for a month. Learn what that did to your system. Try to vocalize what you still want, what you're still after, what you're still looking for, and explain that to your dealer. And a good one will be able to keep you on that path, right? And I think that's and again, for me, I like the hobby, right? So some people, I think, okay, I've decided I want to invest in audio and I want a system. That's awesome. Get a system, enjoy it, love it. But some of us, and I know there are two other faces on this call that we're on right now that are very similar to me in the idea that we never stop, right? There's always something tugging at our interest, right? So in that scenario where you're thinking about trading something out, putting something different in, or even just listening for a change, it's important to know your system, to have a baseline for what is your system doing, and then what can you do by changing one thing or the other out, right? Sometimes I wonder, like, and every bit of the system is important, but I sometimes wonder, like, when people are like, oh, I'm gonna get the newest version of this DAC. For me, and it could be my ears, but sometimes that's one of the hardest things for me to pick up in the chain, some of the differences. It's way easier to pick up as a speaker, an amplifier topology, something like that. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, I think
just had this conversation with a mega. This guy could afford anything. He has anything as terms of his $1 DAC. Somebody brought over $100-something DAC, blindfolded. He could not tell. And so this is we do listen with our eyes. There's nothing wrong with the eye candy. And certainly if you enjoy the aesthetic element of these DACs, then it's like a Rolex. They are very well designed, not taking anything away from that. And if people want to pay for that, that's fine. But just don't have this, carry on this charade that it's this big of a difference anymore. There used to be a case where designs in the DACs were especially different. And then once async came, and now we have lots of jitter is almost immeasurable in almost any DAC now. So the analog stage is still different. There's different. We saw with even parts quality with the Unison Research Black Edition, you can make a difference with parts. But certain things, especially in the DAC realm now, are very tough to hear. And you feel the same way, Carlo?
Absolutely. I mean, when DACs first came out, that's a different story. I mean, they've come so far, and have anyone who tells me that they can hear the difference between a couple of modern DACs sitting 10 feet away from a pair of speakers, no, I don't buy that. I mean, speakers make different speakers make a significantly more detectable difference in what you're going to experience, and a good quality amplifier or integrated behind them. Yes, absolutely. The DAC is probably for your money is going to make the least amount of noticeable change. Maybe if you're listening through headphones and up close and you're switching back and forth, I'll grant you that. But when you're sitting, like 10 feet away from a pair of speakers, there's so much going on between from where that sound comes from those drivers and gets to your ears. It's not coming from the DAC. So
there's some DACs that are, mega dollars now. And in fact, I filmed a separate thing. I was just telling you about, this was a private, but I actually filmed an installation I did in North Carolina just about a week or so ago. And the gentleman had a $11,000 Lumen, not Lin DAC streamer. And we swapped him to a RME Babyface, a pro model DAC, very high quality DAC. He didn't miss it at all. In fact, the system with the RME in it brought tears to his eyes. Now, it was a bunch of other changes, but it wasn't like that became a weak link or anything that caused any problems. And so it was very ear opening for him, because we are conditioned sometimes by gear and looks and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's what's important about your brands, Steve, is that you carry everything. I mean, some of your brands, though, mega cool looking. I love the Audiophile stuff. You can't get any better looking than that. I'm really interested, if you can have by Expona, see what the status is on that Gold Note integrated monos. See if they remember we saw that in their R&D. I'd love to.
I haven't heard anything yet. It was like mega power.
That thing was absurd.
Yeah,
I'm anxious to see that in person. The pedigree that they do, I love that company. I loved all those companies. But yeah, I'm very excited when they come out with something new to at least see what they're doing, because they do so much, or at least in history, did so much OEM for other people, and they can do it all. So very interested.
I'm crazy excited to see it too. They've been very tight-lipped since we were there. I think because we were there, they sort of were like, all right, we're not going to, it was so heavy. God knows they probably didn't want to move it. So they're probably like, we're going to let these guys see it, but they haven't really told us much since then. We've asked a couple times. I think once we get through Florida, a lot of, especially European brands, we'll gear up for Munich.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can pry away an early sample for Expona,
Oh no.
but a lot of times I can't. And it's like, okay, but they'll start sharing with me as we get closer to Munich what's coming. But speaking of exciting stuff, you mentioned that you filmed a few things recently. I mean, I'm still, my phone's like here on my desk. I'm waiting for it to ring. Jason, next time you get an invite like this for Uncle Steve, because that tube event you went to looked fun as hell. I watched the video,
you
and
watched
it's
that.
crazy because it was like an hour long.
I didn't think anybody would watch the whole thing, but
I watched the whole thing, and I will tell you that there was a point where I understood most concepts, and then that guy went so far off the deep end. I'm not scared to admit I no longer understood what he was saying.
right.
Which was like that's the limit of my capability being a non-electrical engineer or anything. But I wish I was there to listen to some of the stuff. And I think it looked like there was an awesome collection of really cool stuff that guy built in that room. And I guess he had other rooms with stuff in it too.
Yeah, I have another video from the summer, 2 videos from his room where we did music clips. His biggest claim to fame is actually not just tube amp. He actually rips vinyl to digital, and he uses a Rockport turntable, a very rare $100,000 turntable. But the turntable is not hooked up to a system. He cannot play records on his system. What he does is rip every album he owns in a very meticulous way using isotope, and it comes out superior. Because one of the advantages of analog that people don't realize is, yes, there is an advantage to analog, but it's in the mastering, the dynamic range. There's an actual website that'll compare, like Adele, her newest album on analog is actually better dynamic range than the streaming version. Actually, YouTube is better than streaming. And so that advantage innate in the analog pressing, he's getting, but then he's ripping it to digital to take out ticks and pops, noise, some of the noise floor issues that analog does not have in any respect an advantage over digital. And so when you listen to his rips, they are superior to both the streaming version and the analog. He's getting the best of both worlds. And the amount of time he spends doing this is very meticulous. I told him he needs to let AI do it in the future. But he spends hours, as you could probably appreciate from his talk. He's very meticulous. And he just came to my house as well recently. And but these are the kind of guys I like to feature. I know it's not for everybody, but for people like you, that's what kind of my channel is for, the people that would dive into the weeds. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. He's a great guy. And
I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, you got to dedicate an hour. Actually, John Curl, the legendary John Curl, was on the video, dialed in to participate as well. So it was a very good group, the Houston Audiophile Society. So yeah, I'll probably do that in the future for guys like you that can appreciate that stuff. So
I found 2 guys, and I wish I could remember their name because I'd like to give them a shout out. They don't have a ton of followers yet, but I found these guys on YouTube. They basically do experiments with horns.
Oh, really?
And I like all. There are many paths to Nirvana, right? I think that you could be thin tower speakers with large, powerful amplifiers. It could be low power amps with high efficiency speakers. It could be flat panel speakers, subwoofers, no subwoofers, analog, digital. It can't be that one person's right and the rest are all wrong, right? That's my philosophy on this, right? So I'm not suggesting one is better than the other, and I wouldn't argue with somebody what they think. I think that it's impossible that one person's right and all these other guys are wrong. Right?
Everybody's got something that turns their crank just right. So.
Yeah, the people that listen to country music, okay, I'm going to argue, but other than that, I'm not, right? So, but what I find some of these channels fascinating when there's not the traditional reviewer version of comparison, where, oh, I listened to this thing, I had it for 3 months in my room, and the next 2 in the same price point, this is what I heard difference. Some people that are on a quest to buy a product for that price point, it's very helpful. I appreciate that. But what sparks my interest, keeps my interest, and has me consuming media is, and I'm doing this more and more, is where people are, messing about with things, DIY fashion, whatever, and we're showing you right there and there first with what they heard with their ears, with a graph, all that stuff. You know, that the numbers don't always tell you everything, right? But and so there's these two guys, and I'll try to remember it, Jason, so I can send it to you. Maybe you can put it in the comments later or not. But it was really cool. They're both somewhat older guys. And I had a little bit of a chuckle because the one guy said that he can't hear past 10,000 hertz without his hearing aids, so he puts his hearing aids in. So it was kind of funny. But anyway, they were comparing compression drivers with different types of horns, and then comparing them to state-of-the-art beryllium, soft dome tweeters, this and that. Like, and so it was a cool video about what were they hearing, what was the perception, what did the graph say, and then ultimately what were their preferences, right? And so the bottom end, basically all of the mid-range down, right, was exactly the same in every scenario. The amplifier was exactly the same in every scenario. They did use a PEQ to sort of adjust a bit for the counterbalance between the efficiency between the mid-range driver and the high frequency. But I spent like an hour and a half the other day watching like 3 other videos in a series of all this stuff. And you know, maybe I'm one of 50 people, but the same thing with what Jason did with the guy building the tube amplification. And I mean, there are some people that they just go crazy, you know, with some of this stuff, and it's so cool, you know. So that's what captures my fancy these days, you know.
Well, that's good to, I mean, again, there's so many people in your position that I've even run into in distributor. They are disenchanted by the industry. They don't have that same passion that you have. And that's another thing that I've appreciated about you, doing everything right, running a very top-notch organization. That's puts you at a super high level of it. But having this passion alone is actually quite rare. There's very few distributors that still have that passion, that will watch that kind of content, have that thirst for more knowledge. So yeah, kudos to you on that. And actually, I wanted to, while I'm thinking about it, you said you had something you were going to debut at the show. You had a record cleaner or something?
I do. We have 2 things, probably more than 2, but there's 2 things that come to my mind off the top of my head that we're going to debut at the Florida Audio Show as part of the Fidelity portfolio. 3 things. I'll try not to take up too much of your time on this. We found, as you know, well, you guys were with me, right, in Munich this year, where we were running around, and I love Munich because I can go as a spectator. When I do all these other trade shows in America, it's great, but I'm there to work. I've got to be there for the dealers and for the consumers, and try to, you know, stress out and make sure that the sound is the best we can make in the room. When I go to Munich, I'm able to go as a spectator, so I get to see things, check out brands, explore if there's something that I think is exciting. And we found the coolest record care company, at least I think so. It's called Nosti, and I probably am not pronouncing that correctly. It's K-N-O-S-T-I. It is a handmade in Germany ultrasonic cleaner, uses a Bosch motor. It's got a 2-minute wash cycle, but the killer thing is it's so quiet you can listen to music in your room while cleaning records ultrasonically.
Oh, really?
Now, if you've ever cleaned a record ultrasonically, you got to put it in a different room because the noise is so annoying, right?
A lot of them sound like lawnmowers or jackhammers or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, it grates on your ears. So this one's super quiet, super fast wash cycle, and then it's got a pump to pump out any residue or additional liquid. So it's super user friendly, while not being crazy expensive. And then they also make some manual devices too that are around about $100, right? So there's $100 for your manual, and then about $1,000 for the electronic ultrasonic.
So a full line of like vinyl care.
Yeah, liquids,
products,
surfactants, all the things that you could need, as well as the cleaner. So we found them at Munich last year, and for those interested in the business cycle of all these things, we found them in May of last year, and they're finally in our portfolio in February. So this is the first time we're debuting it. We're super excited. We have a couple of those units that we'll be showing at the Florida Audio Show.
What's going to be the price point?
So I think one of them starts at about $99. One of them is 130, and then
Oh,
the
wow.
ultrasonic is 11.99. And then
That's
there's
that's
all
pretty good.
kinds of ancillary stuff that goes with them.
That's not crazy. I mean, especially for an ultrasonic cleaner. I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite good. Yeah.
Well, German made, Bosch motor, and super quiet. So those three things together generally do tend to make it a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
I bought something a while ago. We didn't have a record care cleaning company in our portfolio. I bought something off of Amazon about a year and a half ago, and I thought it was awesome. It cleans 5 records at once,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I think I've seen these things.
I've realized I don't use it and I don't like it. And there's a few reasons why. I don't want to clean records like on a different floor than my family. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to go like in the dungeon and go clean records. No one in the family will stay in the room or use the main floor
Yeah.
while that thing is on. And I've also found that when you clean 5 records at once, the 2 outer ones seem to clean a lot better than the 3 in the middle,
Really?
which
Okay.
Yeah.
should,
Yeah.
should be common sense, I guess. So I wasn't using it that much, and I had just been looking for something else. And then I was using like a little spray-on brush thing, and that was good enough, I guess, kind of. But I still had a pretty high noise floor. And I found when I use these ultrasonic ones, I add what's called a surfactant. I guess the secret tip that I've learned is Kodak Photo Flow.
Yeah.
Use that liquid, just a little bit, a capful, in with the distilled water and or whatever mix you've got to clean with, and the noise floor drops on the record pretty dramatically. So that's one exciting thing we've got. We have a world premiere of a new product from Michell, and it's the first
Ah,
time Michelle's had a new product in quite some time.
very
Uh,
cool.
so we'll have a version of that in the chain in the system. You'll be listening to it and one on display. So I'm excited
Nice.
about that. And
It's not
then
a turntable. It's
not a
something else.
turntable. No, it's something else, and it's
Ah.
back to their roots, something they used to make. So
Hmm.
if you're a student of history, you'll see what that is, or you might know
Okay.
what that is.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. And then we have a really, really cool thing. Well, a couple things, I guess you would say, from Ruark. The
Oh, yeah.
first one is they have the R610, which is like a 3/4 size integrated amplifier, if you will, but it's so much more than that. So it's streaming. It's got HDMI eARC, subwoofer out, phono preamp in. It's a Roon endpoint. It does everything, right? Anything you can throw at it, it will do with a gorgeous display. And I think it's $15.99. To my knowledge, it's one of the least expensive units that has HDMI and a great amplifier and all that kind of stuff all in one unit. There's some stuff that are popular out there from a few other English brands, all of which are more expensive. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then the US debut of their first bookshelf speaker called the Saber. Saber was a speaker they had in historical context. Ruark used to make nothing but speakers until about
Ah.
2010, 2012. Don't quote me on that time frame. And then they
Okay.
moved into lifestyle products. But their history is speakers, and they brought back a bookshelf speaker. It's a phenomenal sounding speaker.
Is it like a traditional speaker, or is it an active speaker, or
No, it's traditional, and
okay.
you can pair it with the R610, or you can use it with any integrated amp or any amplifier
Nice.
you want. So you'll get to see those things. Knosti added to our portfolio. You'll get to see the new Ruark stuff, and you'll get to see something special from Michelle. And then at Expona, we'll have quite a few, including some another new brand. I was hopeful to be able to announce it in Florida, but we'll show it at the next show. So something
Okay.
crazy exciting.
Is
I'm glad you
gonna
mentioned
sorry.
Ruark because that's a brand that people may look at now as new, maybe a copycat to other lifestyle products, but actually they've been in the industry forever. Ruark speakers, go back to the 90s and earlier, I think even.
80s, yep.
Yeah, 80s. And so that's a brand with a lot of pedigree. And also their look profile on lifestyle is very attractive. I think it can
There is.
resonate with a lot of people. And then on top of that, the price point and you're not talking about Chinese. It's a UK brand, you know, isn't it?
It is a UK brand. It's designed in UK. Some of the products are
Yeah, of
definitely.
course. But yeah,
Yeah.
so you have the pedigree of the UK long-standing brand in the hobby. So Ruark is one that a lot of people that are new audiophiles don't know about. And I was very impressed with them when I was in Canada. I saw them, the lifestyle products, very impressive. Have you seen them yet, Carlo?
Yeah, I saw them. What was the last show? I think Expo was it? They were at Expona last year, right? You had some Ruark
Yes.
at Expona last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
You saw
yeah.
them at Expona and probably the Audio Advice show.
I didn't go to the Audio Advice, or I wasn't, and I wasn't at Cap Fest, so it would have been Expona. Yeah. I was curious. Is Opera going to have the little the new little Prima, and I think it's the new Quinta? Are they both going to be at the?
They will. I wasn't thinking of that as new because we showed it at Capitol. But
Right.
yes, the new bookshelf and floor standard for Opera will be there in the classic series.
Nice. Okay.
Not the first time we've shown it, but it'll definitely be there.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be a must-see room, not just with the Perlisten. A lot of people have not heard Perlisten in a big room. I'm trying to think now. What I've seen Perlisten in many rooms, starting at I think it was Tampa the first time I saw them at a show that a while back. But they're a little hotel room, and you can't appreciate. And then locally, 3MA has a home theater that's all Perlisten. So I've heard that. What other electronics are you going to be using with the Perlisten?
So we've got a stack of Audiophile.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ah, that'll be nice.
Yeah,
Is
the
your
Audiophile
SACD player going to be there?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think we brought.
You
we
should
brought
bring it.
sep-
My friend Doug's coming. He's definitely interested in it. And if
We
he
brought
sees it, he might
separates.
impulse buy it.
Yeah, I don't think we brought all the stuff left last week.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't think the SACD player is there. I think we brought separates.
Okay.
We are using their DAC and their phono. We do have so we'll have streaming and we'll have analog. So we'll be spinning vinyl also, but I don't think we brought the SACD player.
Okay.
Yeah, actually that's a good idea, and I don't think it's possible now.
Oh, Expona.
Yeah, Exponent.
Yeah, he'll be at that one too. So yeah, so Audiophile Electronics, the
Which
Michell.
Perlisten speakers are going to be? Is it the S17s?
Yeah, S17.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the top of the range subs, but we're not doing the dual driver. We've done the dual driver subs quite a few times. We're gonna do the single driver subs. I always like to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think we have the D15s, and I think we have 4. Our hope is to just run 2. Depends on the room. So yeah.
What's the all-in price around for your system? So people have a kind of a gauge.
Give me 30 seconds. I'm
Okay.
slow with the maths. I would say about 60 to 70,000 for the whole thing. So that's
Which is probably going to be as budget as it comes for a big ballroom.
Yeah, we didn't go bananas with it. We didn't
Compared
go
to some of
bananas.
those other ballrooms. Yeah.
Like everything in general. So the speakers are 20,000. So I didn't want the electronics to be 60,000, right? So the electronics that we're running in the room, I believe, are 19,000, and then the turntable setup is going to be about 8,000. Streamers like 5,000. So it's like we didn't go too far away from, and again, like if you think about if somebody was to upgrade their speakers, they might put the most amount of money in that. And I know I've heard both of you guys say to do that in the past, and I'm not suggesting I wouldn't say that either. But so if somebody said, okay, I've got 20 grand to spend on speakers, and next year I'm going to come back and get electronics, I've got something now. You generally wouldn't go, all right, give me 40 grand worth of electronics, right? So we try to keep it kind of on a cascading downward, in terms of the pricing. So I think that's what we were trying to do on this one. I think again, if it was tough. I mean, it was for us not doing 8 to 10 rooms, right? I think we had quite a lot last year. Meant we really had to make a bunch of serious kind of discussions on which
That
one of
had
our children we don't love that day. You know what I
that
mean?
had to be an interesting thought process. So you guys, you have like a heck of a portfolio to choose from. It's kind of like, okay, we have this much to work with. What do we bring? That had
Yeah.
to be interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think that ultimately the choice for Perlisten was simple because in one breath, it's the most science-based of our companies.
Mm,
And at the same time, the range of what they offer, they're the only brand that we have that has a line of subwoofers. Some of our other brands make a subwoofer, but
right.
Perlisten makes a whole range of subwoofers. They make a whole range of a couple different series of speakers. So that's where I think the logic kind of set in. Like, wait a minute, we can scale within this brand pretty good. So if somebody came
Yeah.
in and said, okay, what I've got a little bit less space. Okay, well then you can go from the S7 to the S5 or or a bookshelf or whatever, right? And you can scale the subwoofer up or down. I mean, they make an 18-inch sub now as well. So
Jeez.
there's quite a lot we could do that way. And Audiophile, we chose. We've been doing the pairing of Perlisten and Audiophile quite a bit,
It's a
and
good match.
actually they do that around the world. We also pair them with Primare
Oh yeah.
uh, quite a bit too. So I think at Expo this year, probably we'll do one room with Audiophile, one room with Primare, so you'll be able to get a different flavor for both.
I got to give
Mm.
you a shout out. I almost forgot. I mean, I'm using 2 Primare pieces in my system right now. I still have to do the review of the surround sound processor, but they've kept on doing firmware, so I want to make sure.
Yeah.
I think have you guys done one on that already?
Yeah, we did actually. I think we
Yeah,
did
I think
do a
you
review of
guys
the
did a good
processor.
review.
Yep.
So I gotta follow. I gotta go up to your standards on that. But yeah, that's a very cool piece. In fact, 2 of my friends have already bought it.
Oh, cool.
Even though they're still doing some firmware and some things, some hiccups that I wanted to get past because I'm doing a lot of testing and direct is kind of part of the problem. But in any case,
Uh,
it's a phenomenal piece. But what I wanted to give a shout out to, almost forgot about this, is in my reference system right now, which Joe Feniger, who just came over to my house, the guy that we were talking about, the do-it-yourself amp, he just called my speaker the best he's ever heard. But I mean, it's part of the entire system. And he builds those tube amps where, he's very particular. When I told him I was using a Primare multi-channel amp on my potpourri speakers that he just called the best, he couldn't believe it. He asked me again. He's like, "Are you sure?" He asked me later. This wasn't on the camera where I filmed it, but he was impressed. And you're not talking about just a Joe Schmo audiophile, as you heard in that hour long. This is a guy that does tubes to the nth degree because he believes in tubes. But the Primare on mine made him say that that speaker at least was the best in the world. So it had to be, it's everything involved. So that's a
pretty
big
good.
shout out to Primare, and it's not that expensive of a multi-channel amp, and it gives you the ability, if you are actively running a speaker, you can now do it with that multi-channel amp. So that is a big piece. Are you going to have some Primare pieces in Tampa?
Yeah, for sure. We'll have the whole
Oh,
lineup
okay.
there on display. And that amp I like the whole line. I mean, I've been a fan of that brand for a long time. When they asked us to be the distributor, nostalgia came over my face. I think it was, it was one of those things where I was interested and had the nostalgia for the 2-channel product. When I got to learn what that multi-channel amp does, I was blown away. We sell that a lot of those amps, even if somebody isn't using Primare or whatever, even if they're not using multi-channel. The amp allows you to continuously scale down the number of channels while sending more and more power to the channels you're using. So
Mm.
it's incredibly flexible. And I think, don't quote me on the exact number, but you can go all the way from 8 channels down to 2 channels, and at 2 channels, it's something like 2 by 700 watts or something. So
Oh,
as you kind of, shrink the number of channels, the power just keeps going up, and it's all customizable, and it's really cool. So, and again, everybody has their things, right, with audio. I always wish we could do somewhere an education on, like, as you were saying earlier, like blind listening, but what does a Class D amplifier sound like? What does a Class A amplifier sound like? What does a Class AB? Not enough people have heard all of these different topologies and these different circuits to understand what the tech, like, so you read it on the forum, you hear it. Somebody heard a Class D amplifier 20 years ago and hates it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And now they're all terrible. And then people
Right.
go on the forum, they all repeat the same thing. That
Yeah.
amplifier uses Class D, but it's very well done. It's very sophisticated. They take a known chip, take a known entity in Class D, and then completely customize it, put their whole back end on it, not just the power supply. A lot of people build their own power supply. They modify the actual chip. And so I think what they're doing is something a lot of people aren't doing. But we don't tell anybody it's Class D a lot of times when they first come in and listen. And then after they listen to it, we tell them, and they're like, "What? Are you kidding me? Well, wait, was the front two channels a Class AB, and then you did Class D for the no, even in a two-channel environment." So, yeah, thank you for pointing out. I love that amplifier.
And let me tell you some other advantages that people don't know about it. It allows you to connect single-ended and the XLRs at the same time. A lot of amps will have that you can't connect them at the same time. So you can use it in a home theater environment as a switcher. Like everybody's always wondering, can I switch between single-ended for my home theater? And they have to replug things in or buy a switch box.
Oh,
It
that's
allows you
cool,
to do
actually.
that. It also allows you to change the gain. There's a tab for -6 dB or 6 dB
Hmm.
to gain match when you're doing multi-channel, and certain speakers are more efficient than others. You want gain matching, you can do that with that one little tab. And then it also has the ability to bridge. So like instead of 8 channel, whatever,
That's
6 or
cool.
8 channel, then you can use just 2 channel. And so when you have that versatility in an amp, and that's why I'm using it. I'm like, it's giving me all this versatility and the performance, and I've got mega dollar amps and can hook up tube amps, whatever. But I show people, don't have this prejudice anymore. You have to judge it on the merits. It's kind of like what we were talking about with DACs. It's not the same as these dogmas from the past with Class D,
Yeah.
at least with Primare. And the other thing it reminds me of, and I'm glad you're bringing Primare pieces to Tampa, because not for a lot of money, their chassis are among the best looking, period. There's nothing like that facade. It's just got a cool, classy vibe that I'm extremely impressed with. And just that little offset in the front plate, just not that stereotypical China built chassis. And really, when you think of the brands that you carry, you know, I'm a sucker for performance, obviously, first, but the looks on Audiophile, Unison Research, Primare, like these are eye candy galore. And whenever you can get the Gold Note XS, what is it, 87?
XS85s.
85, yeah. That's badass looking as well.
Mhm.
Just the back of it is as badass as looking as the front. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, can't wait. And I know you've got some new things that you're going to be announcing in the near future. Can't wait for that. And yeah,
We have a custom pair. We have a new speaker company coming in, a custom pair that a dealer is bringing to the show. So and they're a custom finish. They're going to be sick. I
Oh
know
my God.
both of you know what that is. So very soon we'll be announcing that one too.
we're tight lip
Oh,
right
man.
now, but can't wait. And also we may be doing another little trip in the not too distant
We are.
future. Okay.
We are for
Mm.
sure. I'm working on locking that in. But
Carlo,
yes,
we got to start dieting now.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm
very
walking
anxious.
every day.
I can't wait for the Steve wine reviews every night.
Yeah.
People don't realize that
yeah.
on the Vino app, what are you ranked now, Steve? Are you the #1 in the world now?
no, I'm in the top 500, which is really
Oh,
scary.
that's still good. That's still good.
Yeah, I'm like so for those who don't know this, I don't really know a lot about wine. I use my Vivino apps as an outlet for creative writing. And so I'm in like the top 500 in the world in terms of wine reviewers, and that is a really scary thing because I really don't know much about wine.
No,
My end goal.
it is unbelievable the poetic. You're better than any audiophile reviewer with all this jargon. Like you should program AI to do wine reviews. Like,
That takes the sanctity out of it. I mean,
you
I
should
think
be the Chat GPT of wine reviews
if
because you just
people,
always immediately come up with this poetry for the wine.
Steve's Book of Wine Prose.
there's a lot of stuff going up there. You got to let it out sometimes. But I have an ultimate goal, which I've shared with you guys, and I'll share with anybody who's watching this for some comic relief, which is one day, if I can make it into the top 100, you will see me like on Good Morning America or something for the holiday edition, Steve's Wine Reviews.
Oh wow!
So when I tell you what you should potentially buy for entertaining your family, everyone who's in on this should know that it's complete nonsense, but it will go something along the lines of warm leather with a tinge of pencil shavings. What that means, I have no idea, but that's exactly how I'm going to describe the wine.
Oh
Well, you did better than me on all of them except that one restaurant we went to with Gold Note where I thought it tasted like dirty socks. That was terrible.
Oh my God.
I don't think you could even wax poetic on that wine, but in any case.
That was definitely the Vino de Casa. That was definitely the house wine, and it was the outhouse wine.
I
Fine bouquet of moldy
even
outhouse.
just doing one toast was a little too much for me with that wine. But kudos to you for putting it down.
Jeez.
Yeah. I can't wait to see you guys this week, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a blast.
Going to come by, and yeah, safe travels to everybody. I know we're up on an hour, so this should be a good time. Unless there's anything else you guys want to promote, anything coming out with you guys, Carlo? How many people from your? Are you just coming from your?
Me primarily for the weekend, and one of our co-editors, Chris Eberle's coming in on the Saturday. He's lives in Orlando, so he's driving in to cover the show on Saturday. But mostly me for the whole weekend. So
yeah, check out his site if you haven't. I mean, he's been in business a lot longer than I've ever been, covering this stuff. I mean, I've been in the hobby a long time, but not in the press realm. Carlo's got amazing site. The reviews are just dead on. I mean, really are.
Sure.
I mean, I'm serious. I'm not even bullshitting. I mean, your reviews, number one, the equipment you pick, and then when I read your reviews, there's very few reviewers I trust. Very few. So yeah.
That's very kind of you, man. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
That being 100% honest and real here. So definitely check out his stuff. And then, of course, Steve's room is a must-see. Perlisten, like I was hinting at, in a big room, I don't think has been at a show. So a chance to let them breathe, let them exercise themselves. And you're talking about still well under $100,000 for a room. Some rooms that are the small rooms, you'll have that in cables alone or the power conditioners, So, this is still bringing a level of reasonableness to the hobby. And that's what I appreciate about you on top of the other things that we discussed. So thanks for joining me. Can't wait to see you guys. And
yeah, we just see you too, man.
Yeah,
this will be a dynamite show as always.
Yeah, I think Randy's going to be there. Shout out to him. Sorry he couldn't make it tonight. And Woody, I think he was.
Woody's coming. Yeah.
Woody's still waiting for his food tonight.
That's right.
So shout out to those guys. So look forward to seeing you. Thanks for joining, and see you soon.
All the best, guys.